everyone. Welcome here on this Monday, December 8th of 2025. We have a lot to cover today. It's been a while. So I wanted to touch base and see how everyone is doing heading into the holidays. We're a few weeks away. A lot of severe weather is affecting much of the country. And of course, during travel and after airlines and schedules and flights have gotten back on track after the shutdown, of course, it's a little bit stressful. Everyone, especially if you're hauling kids or you're trying to coordinate schedules, and everyone's going every which way. But I wanted to touch base and say great Black Friday sale. A lot of you took advantage of it. I'm really pleased. And I'll let you know that you'll all get emails and notifications and whatnot for the Christmas sale this year, which starts exactly 2 weeks from today. So mark your calendars or just plan accordingly. December 22nd, Monday, the week that the Christmas, holidays have already begun, but the few days leading to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So keep that in mind. A couple of house cleaning notes. First of all, before we get all into the good stuff that I prepared for you today, I'm starting what I refer to as a prayer posse. You can see the email address on the lower right-hand side of your screen. And really, it's for anyone, everyone, including yourself, including people close to you, those whom you'd like to sort of, even if you would like us to do a shout out to someone else, and have us all use the power of prayer to come together and to give special mention for someone. You can be as vague or specific as you like. And one of the reasons why I wanted to hop on today is because of a viral GoFundMe campaign, which is just incredible, an incredible story. We have that coming up later. But first, I wanted to get to recent so-called disclosure, because it's this is a good opportunity to compare your discernment with the discernment of what's being put out there. This including a section from my docuseries, Join the Journey, ET Evolution, ET Contact and Human Evolution. And I wanted to compare what they're now calling new disclosure, a couple of avenues lately, but I just picked one to use as an example, and compare what I refer to as, in my sensibilities, more authentic release of information, some of which is fairly recent, some goes back several years from people who are no longer with us. These are sort of like the OGs of whistleblowing and truth telling, if you ask me. But what was very noticeable to me, and I want to see what you guys think about this, I'm going to play the trailer of the movie. It's called Age of Disclosure. I watched the whole thing, and as time went on, as every sort of few minutes went on, I noticed a pattern and a theme. I'm going to give you a couple of clues before I run this trailer, you guys. So see if you can catch this. Okay, and I just want to add this for context because not many people know this, but in the world of rebranding, not just entertainment, but in the corporate world, I was noticing this as I was sort of reviewing all of the layoffs recently, this last quarter of 2025. And I was like, wow, a lot of workers may not know this, but one way to get around any potential liability or problem in major layoffs is to say that position no longer exists anymore. So rather than let's say someone is a telemarketer, and then they might change that job title to telephone salesperson, And what that does by changing the name, rebranding, is excludes from possible liability if you do something like that. So, of course, many of you know I'm of the opinion that the whole UFO thing has been changed to UAE because they don't want to be too closely associated with the original information we already have that's been around for eons, and they want to repackage it, rebrand it, re-put it out there and see what you guys think. Okay. The other thing I want you to keep in mind as you watch this trailer for Age of Disclosure, which I wouldn't rent. I mean, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that, but don't rent it. Certainly don't buy it. I mean, as always, sort of trust the few sources that you have in your lives that you have come to appreciate are along the same lines of maybe what kinds of conclusions and discernment and processing with your sensibilities you have come to. But the other thing I noticed about this is they sort of like state the obvious. I was thinking about if I had to review this, like if I were still on TV and I had to review it, I would put it in the, tongue in cheek, in the category of a nothing burger meets bad, dramatic, wannabe documentary series. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. But anyways, okay, 2 things to keep in mind as you watch this, you guys. They're rebranding UAE, and notice how many times they say it. And I'll add some stuff to that after you watch this. And then also notice how many things you already know. In other words, how often are they stating the obvious? Okay, so take a look at this trailer, Age of Disclosure.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I've worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A 1-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic,
we learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret, very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
All right. So the phrase "a nothing burger in TV" refers to kind of like we've already seen that. There always is this big push in media to have something new and different and sort of fresh eyes on something. So a nothing burger is normally referred to as we've already heard that. We already know there's intelligent species. And the phrase, I watched the whole thing, of course, and the phrase that really I thought was cute, I mean, it made me actually LOL, was when someone said, there is other intelligent beings in the universe who have discovered us. And, the obvious thought to me was, oh, really? So is this the first time they've discovered us? I mean, anyways, of course, I'm of the opinion that we're sort of, the human species is sort of kindergarten stage. And if we were to compare it to something a lot bigger and more intelligent, certainly higher densities, we wouldn't be so presumptuous, or the hubris of man always comes out that, somehow we've discovered them, but, of course, all of us are relying on our own sensibilities as to what we know, our background experience, what we believe has been proven to us. Now, I want to give you an example. Okay, what was the thing I was going to explain to you? It'll come to me. There is a what I believe to be someone who was willing to talk about what I've been reinforcing several times. You guys have heard me before talking about Project Bluebeam, how they're going to want to control in order to be able to take the next step in whatever sort of digital currency, digital ID, passports, all this medical stuff that they can, wearables underneath the skin, all that stuff, is to get everybody on the same side and be, scared of these aliens that are coming, right? And the odd time you run across someone who is an insider, was an insider, they're not legally liable if they do reference and hint as to what the truth is, okay? Read between the lines on that. And this is one such person who I believe fits that category. Oops, sorry, I keep hitting my mic. And to give you an idea of what a authentic whistleblower sounds like, okay? And I want to say a couple things about that real quickly before I run the clip. What I was going to say about this sort of new documentary is, what originals were not included in the lineup is very telling, sort of conspicuous by its absence, and which ones they did include. If you notice from that little piece, and certainly when you watch it, if you do watch it, all of them are using that new phrase. All of them are on board with the new branding. Okay, that's not an accident. One other thing I want to add in here real quickly. In my experience with the branches of the military, the two most, again, just my opinion, one person, one voice, one vote, the most, what I would say, enhanced programming would be the Navy and the Air Force. And when you watch that trailer, and certainly when you watch the documentary, you'll see what I mean, how that's a little bit obvious. Okay, so take a watch. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say before I let you watch this clip, is the truth. What I believe to be the truth, the ultimate distraction, is said in the final sentence of this clip. What is it? Like I did 5 years ago when I got deplatformed across the board, when I was encouraging everybody to just do, go a little further down the rabbit hole. And I was hoping that everyone would not sort of take everything at face value like we had, like people like me had, sort of tried to build a reputation where people could take things at face value. And then when push came to shove around that time, it was questionable. But in any event, the ultimate distraction is something that keep in mind as you're watching, like I did back then. Direction, what is it that they're trying to have us not look at? And that's really key, you guys, in keeping that in mind. And when we're talking about the power principle on Earth, and this sort of like competition for who's in control or who's not. I mean, if you're anything like me, it just gets to the point where you're like, okay, whatever, you're in charge. What, like, anyways. So, okay, keep in mind, last sentence, watch for it. And this is what truth telling actually looks like, in my opinion.
Yeah, good one.
What is that?
That's
lasers, right?
Yeah, I can actually talk about that one, but that is this is really bad. But you know the people that see orbs in the sky, go around that fly faster.
UFOs.
UFOs.
Yeah, there's Navy pilots. There's multiple Navy pilots who talk about. They got their they were flying F-18s. These Navy pilots, and one of them's coming in here in 2 weeks. He's Ryan Graves.
Okay.
He's a Navy pilot flying off the coast of North Carolina, and they got their radar upgraded on their F-18s, and all of a sudden they were seeing these things darting around on their radar.
Okay. Don't tell him what I'm about to say and see if he knows about it.
Okay.
So what we do is we play with our own forces to make sure our trickery will work on the enemy. And those are directed energy weapons of where we do intersecting beams or focus beams into the atmosphere. And notice they're always in the atmosphere to excite the electron orbitals of the oxygen and nitrogen in our atmosphere. And it causes a glow and it causes ionization. That ionization shows up on radar and it's like a cat laser pointer, and we're making planes chase them.
That's exactly how they describe these things moving, like laser pointers.
Yeah, look, and then it just happened to disappear, and they get all.
The Navy, you said?
Somebody, let's just say a group,
And you know this for a fact.
I know for a fact. Yeah. So anyway, don't tell your guests.
A group within the U.S. government.
And this got leaked. So it probably won't have the effect, and they probably won't do it. But if you wanted to bring the world together, as President Reagan said in several UN speeches, you would have a common enemy, like evil aliens attacking. We forget our differences and we fight against it.
So we look at each other as Chinese or Russian or American. We look at each other as Earthlings.
It's humans. Yeah, as Earthlings. And so that was Project Bluebeam, was to trick the human race into believing either God is coming down, everybody hears the voice of God, the microwave hearing effect, get along, whatever the new message is, or it was going to be the evil aliens attacking. And notice how they all of a sudden, all the governments release all their information on UFOs, and there's a whole division dedicated, and that's just deception.
You think it's all deception?
I think it's all deception.
Really?
Yeah, but that's my opinion. I've looked at all the videotapes and that people have given me, and I can explain away each one of them.
So apparently, but there's apparently lots of footage and videos and photos that have not been released to the public.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, so I can't get.
And if you think this is all some sort of psyop, what do you think the ultimate purpose of it is?
Distraction against a lot of this human experiment.
Okay, did you hear that? It is really easy to miss, you guys. So let me just play that little last part again. It is very easy to miss, but the wag the dog intention, he says it at the very end. And by the way, thanks to Richie from Boston for adding.
Some sort of psyop. What do you think the ultimate purpose of it is?
Distraction against a lot of this human experiment.
He said distraction. A lot of it is Greenwald. At least it's ironed. Okay, so I want to get to, there was another whistleblower very early on who was taking some great risks, and I really like that Bill Deagle was willing things. It was lovely that he was willing to do that. And I was, of course, when I'm showing these folks, it's not necessarily that I believe that all of them are speaking things that I agree with. Generally speaking, even if I may not agree with all, a whole are sharing, I still admire that they, are at great risk, but they have the courage to come forward and say something. One area after Bill Deagle and I agreed, audio, so don't adjust your devices.
You always
audio, so don't adjust your devices.
You always learn what you know that's related to things you previously knew. And some of those are not just physical things, because we're a spirit being, we know things in the intellectual realm, but we also, religion is a substitute.
Okay, so now when it comes to what he chose to speak up on, a doctor with, and the documentary Age of Disclosure, which, by the way, when I watched it, you guys, I was like, the age of deception is clearly still overriding the age of disclosure. It's like that saying, I think it's Dr. Deagle's saying, actually, where he said is, how far do you go down the rabbit hole? Like, to the end of the trail of the rabbit hole? I think he is the one who's used to say that over and over. But in any event, this kind of information that I'm going to play for you now is conspicuous by its absence. Who they chose not to include in a documentary of, quote, disclosure, their words, not ours, is very telling to me. Because not only have many people dared to come forward and talk about it, people censored, some original truth tellers who have passed under what I think is fair to say suspicious circumstances. But anyways, listen to Dr. Bill Deagle's intelligence and why someone like me or you would go, wait a minute, so if it's supposed to be full disclosure, why are you missing some of this very vital information?
From emergency department, intensive care, burn units, from emergency department, intensive care, burn units, trauma units, ICUs in the middle of nowhere, 300 miles from everywhere you can imagine, in the middle of mountains, to military and nuclear medicine, and also handled the teams working at Falcon Air Force Base, etc. And what happened is, in this time, one of the 5 gentlemen told me that he wanted me to do further evaluations of him because he had radiation exposure. And of course, I was a chemist before I went into medicine and did marine bacteriology in the 70s before I went into medicine. And I said, well, this was an ANFO bomb. And I said, well, this was an ANFO bomb. It was a ammonium nitrate bomb. It was a ammonium nitrate bomb. That couldn't cause radiation burns. He said, you don't understand. I said, look, unless you couldn't cause radiation burns. He said, you don't understand. I said, look, unless you tell me the truth, I'm not going to do anything for you. Gruff old ER doc. And he said, after he broke down after about 15 minutes, he actually started to almost cry. He was pupils pinpoint, ashen white, scared to death. And this guy's a special op military munitions guy that works around things like, high explosives. So obviously, that's not the kind of person that's a special op guy that gets scared easy. So he told me in great detail over the next 2 hours and 15 minutes how the Oklahoma City Mural buildings were brought down by micro-nukes that were put in there, a U.S. Army Corps engineer, by FBI and ATF agents, and by thermate and other high explosives, including 2 micro-nukes they removed, and a C4 Pineapple and another C4 that were placed on the inside pillars of the building. I filed that away, but 4.5 months later, his commanders at Fort Carson found out, and he got court-martialed. I've never heard from him again. God knows what happened to him. And when they found out, they hauled me into the conference room and tried to threaten me. And I said, you don't threaten me. I said, because they were in the process of trying to fire me. This is what they call a little rendition. I said, you're going to cut me a check for $35,000, letter of reference, and if you come within 500 miles of me or my family with any of your operatives, I said, I will, or my buddies will take you out. And I meant it. And I've taken care of people that have been in the most classified facilities on the planet in Colorado. And Colorado has more classified material underground there and more computing power, quantum computing, than all the rest of the planet put together by a very large order of magnitude. And most of these facilities are in underground cities. And I was in one of them, and it was very impressive. It's Schriever Air Force Base, 18 miles east of Colorado Springs. And the facility, the main facility building is actually underground about a quarter mile. And it was shielded in 2.5 inches of seamless stainless steel, ringed by an anti-missile system and scalar weapons, as well as a full tactical division of Star Wars weaponry. And they had a quantum array, and I physically walked through the quantum array. It's gallium arsenide Cray 5 computers. You may have heard that these other teraflop computers are the most powerful in the world, and they're liars. The most powerful computer was developed by Seymour Cray, who 11 months after his discovery, his systems went section 11, I believe it is, chapter 11, And he died on the I-25 freeway just north of Air Force Academy in one of these weird accidental deaths, where a car crossed the freeway in complete bright, clean, black top and completely T-boned his car and crushed him and killed him instantly. So Seymour Cray had done the impossible. He'd actually, without zero gravity, created a gallium arsenide chip that had to be created at almost minus 200 degrees Kelvin in order to create this chip that allowed quantum computing. To give you an idea, the Cray forms in teraflops, it's equivalent to 100,000 Cray 4s.
Okay, so, you know, we may not, the average layperson may not know those kinds of terms. Don't you like my of lack of disclosure and transparency. Now, I want to add something here real quickly before we go on to a clip from my docuseries. Hi, Patricia. How are you, love? Because I wanted to show a little section of the Join the Journey docuseries that I did this past summer. From episode 1, Famous ET Contact, because I wanted to share, obviously, what I think to be some of the most valuable information that was not only out there, much of it was already out there, but of what I personally experienced myself. So that's coming up in a little bit. But I wanted to mention that Dr. Deagle's contribution, particularly with Deborah Tavares, one of the original truth tellers, was really critical. Now, in any sort of military operations, although disclosure, honesty, freedom of information, freedom of the press, I hold in high regard. When it comes to military operations, there's a reason for classified information. And during my time in the media, and also in subsequent working in this work with people one-on-one and close up, this is not something that is to be taken lightly. Obviously, putting any human life or any operations at risk is, really critical to consider the ramifications of those kinds of things. But in any event, I wanted to share a little piece for those of you who have not rented or watched my docuseries, episode 1, called Famous ET Contact.
Where you are at all times. But this one evening in February of 1954, Eisenhower just goes missing. And then 2 minutes later, they retracted it and said, no, our mistake. And the next morning he said, no, our mistake. And the next morning he shows up at church. So something happened in the middle of that night. Unexplained and really strange.
As the story goes, Eisenhower was unaccounted for during a rumored meeting with Nordic aliens at Edward their spiritual wisdom with Ike if he would agree to eliminate America's nuclear weapons. According to an article in the Washington Post, Salas says, quote, Ike declined the ET's offer because he didn't want to give up nukes. Blogger Jason Robert writes, while almost every hour of his Palm Springs trip can be accounted for, there is nothing, not even a note in his medical file to support him ever visiting a dentist while in California. So where was President Eisenhower that night?
There's a story that on February with extraterrestrials. This took place at an airbase. Eisenhower was presumably asked to renounce and give up nuclear weapons. And in exchange, the extraterrestrials would give the US technology which would change the world. The story is that Eisenhower turned down this deal because he couldn't be sure that
This is where the critical exact date aligns yet again. March 16th is the date he appeared to me in 2021, but also the exact date in 1967 when when Air Force whistleblowers report witnessing extraterrestrials disarming all 10 nuclear warheads at Maelstrom Air Force Base in Montana.
I don't know what's going on here. Let's see if I can find that little box. Yeah, I mean, that's everything correct. So, all right. So, we'll see you next time, everyone. Have a wonderful preparation before Christmas. Keep calm, breathe, and remember, it's all about getting to spend time with the ones that you love. We'll see you next time, everyone. Take care.